It's 5 o'clock.
Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Are you ready for this? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Wednesday. It's February the 4th, 2015, and welcome to the BCS Experience History, Arts, Culture, Politics, and Review and Discussion. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. The BCS Experience takes a look at our rich history, African American history. We're going to share with you some known and unknown historical facts and information from the past and connect the dots on how they have impacted on our present day events and how they will definitely shape our future as African Americans in this country and around the world. The BCS Experience, History, Arts, Culture, Politics, and Review and Discussion. This is Internet Radio and will be aired live every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. from the studios of the BW Moving Images on the GoPro Radio Network. You see, I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk to you all across the country and around the globe. I want you to tune in every week on your computer or your phone. I want you to become a loyal listener, and I personally invite you to lend your voices to this radio talk show to express your opinions on my weekly topics. This is social network radio at its finest. Now here's the number for you to call in to be a part of the discussion. Call 347-884-9839. Once again, that number to call is 347-884-9839. This week's topic, very interesting indeed, Black radio, the pioneers who paved the way, and what it is. What's its future like? What is the future of black radio? Well, my show is the New Underground Railroad Express. Next stop is your neighborhood. All aboard to freedom and to Freedom Land. But before we meet my very special guest, a little bit of history I think is important about black radio. This is from the African American Registry. See, the date, it's Sunday. It's November the 3rd. It's 1929. You see, on this date, the All Negro Hour premiered on American Broadcast Radio. This was the first radio program to feature black performers exclusively. This article is a brief summary of African American history in radio broadcasting. You see, the growth of African American radio has largely mirrored changes in American culture and in the market forces that control the radio industry. The growth of economic power among African Americans has helped change black radio from a white-dominated advertising medium into a multi-million-dollar industry, which gradually was more and more owned and operated by blacks. You see, in the early days of radio, a mixture of positive and negative stereotypes characterized African Americans. Radio shows such as Beulah and Amos and Andy featured characters that were carefree, inarticulate, and inept, while broadcasts by band leader Duke Ellington, singer Paul Robeson, and others exposed predominantly white radio audiences to the work of talented and refined black artists. Such images of African Americans frequently appeared in early radio broadcasts. Yet, an empty space existed for blacks in positions of management and ownership. Black radio shows did not have black announcers, actors, or masters of ceremonies. You see, it was on November 3rd, 1929, white-owned radio station WSBC in Chicago premiered the All-Negro Hour, the first radio program to feature black performers exclusively. The program, hosted by former vaudeville performer Jack L. Cooper, featured music, comedy, and serial dramas. The All-Negro Hour went off the air in 1935, but Cooper continued to host and produce black-oriented programming for WSBC. One such program was Search for Missing Persons, a series launched in 1938 that reunited black migrants from the South with lost friends and relatives. The success, along with the general trend toward expansion in the radio industry, led to a rise of black-oriented radio stations following World War II. In 1949, station WDIA in Memphis, Tennessee, became the first to employ an all-black on-air announcing staff. Later that year, WERD in Atlanta began broadcasting as the first black-owned radio station. Powerful AM stations such as WLAC in Nashville began broadcasting black-oriented news and rhythm and blues music across entire regions of the United States, drawing both black and white audiences. Institutional racism and the shortage of capital, however, continued to discourage black entrepreneurs from investing in radio broadcasting. African Americans would not make substantial inroads into radio ownership and management until the 1970s. Black radio continued to emphasize news, public affairs, and music after World War II. Listen Chicago, the first news discussion program aimed at African Americans, debuted in 1946 and ran until 1952. It focused on black issues, including church and social news. Black disc jockeys developed colorful on-air personalities that mirrored changes in the black community. Rhythm and blues programs hosted by black disc jockeys attracted more white listeners after World War II, and the exposure of white kids to black urban music began to change American society. Black radio fueled the popularity of rock and roll and was instrumental in lowering cultural barriers between blacks and whites in the 1950s. Throughout the 1950s and the 60s, the presence and influence of African American on-air personalities dominated black radio. Working from our African oral tradition, black disc jockeys shaped black and often white musical tastes. This broader media perspective created a social grapevine that contributed largely to the empowerment of the growing civil rights movement. Now, Southern black stations in particular became clearinghouses for information and forums for discussion among black communities, cut off from each other by segregation and geography. Black radio personalities such as Jack the Rapper Gibson of WERD and Tall Paul White of WEDR in Birmingham drew praise from Martin Luther King and other prominent African American leaders for their contributions to civil rights efforts. Well, during this time, many black disc jockeys became caught up in the backlash that followed the civil rights advances and cultural changes. Some also lost their jobs to the payola scandal that implicated announcers for receiving cash payments from recording companies in exchange for playing certain records on the air. Also, by the late 1950s, white rock and roll DJs such as Dewey Phillips and Wolfman Jack were imitating black styles to gain ratings. Following the scandal, station managers increasingly resorted to standardized formats and playlists that restricted the freedom and influence of disc jockeys. Yet, black radio continued to emphasize individual personalities throughout the 60s, as DJs such as Purvis Spann in Chicago and Magnificent Montague in Los Angeles echoed the emerging militancy of black youth and acted as peacemakers during the inner city riots. You see, in 1970s marked a period of dramatic change in African American radio. Some of this change occurred as a result of industry-wide trends, formats, de-emphasized the news and public affairs programming that had become a staple of black radio. The emergence of FM radio, with its more music, less talk philosophy, intensified the trend away from news and discussion shows that targeted African American audiences. It was during this time the most significant change in black radio was the increase in the number of black-owned radio stations, which grew from 16 to 88, closing somewhat the wide gap between black-owned stations and stations broadcasting black-oriented programming. The 1970s also saw the emergence of two black-owned operated radio networks, the Mutual Black Network, which became Sheridan Broadcasting Network in 1979, and in 1972, the National Black Network in 1973. Well, it goes on to say, because there's a little bit more history to this, but what's really important is the personalities that were established. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into the history a little bit more of black radio, but we're going to talk about one particular personality that's really lit up the airwaves just almost by himself. But we're going to talk to his daughter. We're talking to my good friend as my very special guest who's joining me in the studio as a featured call-in guest. I got two guests, Miss Jill Gibson Bell, the daughter of Jack, also known Jack the Rapper, also known as Jack the Rapper, Jack Gibson, America's pioneer DJ music industry giant, and the author of Mellow Yellow, Walker Smith, the story of Jack the Rapper's life, a tell-all book containing the inside stories you have never heard before. Welcome, ladies, to the BCS Experience. How are you this evening?
Fine. Thank you for having us on, Byron.
Great.
Hi, Byron. It's Jill.
Hey, Jill and Walker. I guess I should call you two amigos or amiguettes or something like that. You know, because this is an interesting topic here. You know, we always talk about the history of black radio, and it's something is extraordinary, and it has been over the years, over the decades. But now let's get deeper. Let's go real deep. Jack the Rapper. Jill, that was your dad. Mm-hmm. Come on now, talk to me. You lived what they call a life, okay?
Oh, that I have done, trust me. And I wanted to say, on the radio, he was known as Jockey Jack. Now,
Jockey Jack,
I was going to ask you that.
Right.
He wasn't known Jockey Rapper until he started his convention in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
So he was Jockey Jack.
All right.
That's how they knew him. That's how he opened up his radio show. He opened up the first black-owned and operated radio station, WERD,
that's right,
in Atlanta,
yes,
in 1949. And he said, "Hello, Atlanta. We're here," you know. So, yes, I did. I lived a very interesting life. Moved a lot, and a lot of stars, and done a lot of great things, all because of Daddy.
Well, you and I have a history as well, as you were one of my really strong supporters of Just Us Theater Company in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right.
You helped to host many affairs that we had, welcoming the stars to the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and then helping us to establish one of the premier black theater companies in the country. So, Jill, thank you for that long-term support that you gave Just Us Theater back in the day, as they say.
Well, you know, I love doing it. I was glad that I was able there to help you.
Well, you know, one of the things that was interesting is I always thought of you as being an actress for some reason. I always thought you should have been on stage somewhere because you were always, to me, on stage, and that was because of course, your personality, your father. You know?
Yeah, my family used to say that also. I miss my calling, but no, I don't know about that. Daddy always wanted to do that too. Now,
okay,
that's how he kind of started. That's how he met my mother in Atlanta. He was at Lincoln University, and he was with the Lincoln Players, and they came here to do a play, and my mother was a Spelman lady.
Yes.
And back in those days, of course, she was standing on the corner where Yates and Milton used to be now. Then I told her, Mom, you weren't supposed to be on the corner. You were supposed to be in the dorm. But anyway, long story short, that's where he met my mother.
Okay.
And he was down here in a play, and he was at my house, and the Spelman ladies came over, and that was it.
All
and
right.
He met a real Georgia peach.
Magic on the corner. And I also have with
Right.
us this evening Walker Smith, who's actually the author of Mellow Yellow. Welcome, Walker. And how are you this evening?
Oh, very good. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem. You have quite an interesting bio yourself, a former musical talent. You've recorded 3 solo albums with Casablanca label. Oh, my goodness. And I'm looking at some of the other things. And then you got into writing again. How did you and Jill get together?
Through her dad. It was first. Actually, I had met Jack years and years ago. Was singing, but he didn't remember it, and I was glad because when I walked away from the music business to write, I didn't want any of that following me. I didn't want anybody looking at me like a singer turned writer because it takes away your credibility. And when I got the call saying that he was looking for someone to help him write the story of his life, I asked him, please don't mention my involvement in the music business because I want to be taken on my strength of writing.
Yeah.
And so he sort of auditioned me by letting me do an interview and then writing up a little draft of my idea of how the book should go and submitting it to him, and he loved it. So then he hired me. And it wasn't until we worked on this book off and on for 2 years.
Okay.
It wasn't until the very, very end that I told him that I used to sing, and I had met him at one of the conventions, and he got a big kick out of that.
I'm sure.
And I said, I didn't want you to know. I wanted you to only
Oh, my goodness.
judging me on my writing.
Well,
yeah,
ladies,
so it was fun for me.
Great. I got to take a little break here, and when we come back, we're going to get deeper into the music industry, black radio stations, because we're talking about the history of the communication of how we got the word out. Other than the drum, it was on black radio. So, ladies, don't go away. My listening audience, we'll be right back. You're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. We'll be right back.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
Why are you paying for radio? Are you serious? GoPro Radio offers content for free. Go to www.goproradio.com and listen to original, irreverent, and exceptional talk shows. It's free. Go to www.goproradio.com now. It's that simple and free. www.goproradio.com. Listen to the voices in your head. Oh, and did I mention it's free?
What if you can have an entire team of skilled professionals to help your business grow? Admin, accounts, marketing, and more, but only pay for the exact amount of support you need at virtually the same cost you'd pay for one full-time employee. With Virtual Professions, you can. One contact, one number gets you a team of virtual professionals for exactly what your business needs. It's 1-888-315-VPRO. That's 1-888-315-8776. Or online at www.virtualprofessions.net. Virtual Professions Incorporated, because you mean business.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. I'm talking to my dear friend, Jill Gibson Bell. She's the daughter of Jack Gibson, also known as Jackie Jack the rapper, America's pioneer, DJ, music industry giant. And joining her is Walker Smith, who is the author of Mellow Yellow, the story of Jack the Rapper's life, a tell-all book containing the inside stories you have never heard before. Ladies, welcome back. Listeners, welcome back to the BCS Experience. Jill, growing up in your house, talk to us. Tell us a little bit about that. There had to be, I'm sure there were some good times, some bad times, some great times, some amazingly unbelievable times. Give us a little bit of a hint. What was it like growing up in Jack the Rapper's household?
Excitement all the time.
All the time. Right?
Excitement all the time. My mother was a school teacher.
Okay.
So she was a level-headed one in our family. But I'm probably more. I have a brother, and I guess he's more like her, and I'm more like my daddy. So I love the excitement. I wanted to always go hang with my daddy, and he did take me a couple times down to the radio station, and I really was not a star. I don't want to say a star, but the kids in my school knew that I knew. I'm really gonna date myself. I'm trying to think. Well, it wasn't. Let me see. Who did I know? Well, of course, Stevie Wonder came to my house.
Yes.
Okay, still to this day.
Oh, you can drop all the names you want to on this show.
No, that's all right. No, see, the kids. I mean, I was a celebrity in my own school because
Right.
I didn't know that then, but. Those kind of things is what happened. I would go with him places. Something I can't because I was obviously too young to go to his sock hops, as he used to call them. And he had a fan club. That's all in the book.
Right.
But the excitement of being with my dad and not realizing really back in those days. You made a point. I was listening to your telling the story of the black history of black radio, and they did. It was personality, strictly personality.
Yes.
And you're right. My daddy had his own. He was Jackson, but that's how he got Jockey Jack, and everybody had a name during the day. Now it's not like that anymore because they've taken that wonderful personality away. There's a few left in business that still have the personality, but it was different back when I was growing up because they had fan clubs. You don't have fan clubs anymore.
Exactly.
That was exciting. Every time, when my daddy would walk someplace, they start hollering and screaming. I said, now, why are they hollering and screaming at my daddy? I said, that doesn't, that didn't make sense to me. But
at what age, Jill?
My household was wonderful.
What age, Jill, did you realize that you were the daughter of a very famous personality? When did it really strike you? I mean, there had to be a point at which you had to say, I'm not like the rest of these kids here. So what age was that?
That's a good question. I got to think. I thought I was cool when Stevie Wonder came to my house, and I was, 12 years old?
Okay, see?
There were, but it was, that was, when I got to see, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. I went downtown in Cincinnati. I was able to, I didn't know quite who they were. I mean, I knew the music, but I don't think I've ever been, what you say, starstruck,
Right.
So I think it was young, but it was just great. I was having fun, and I even got so the Cincinnati Call Post at that time had me write a little article in their paper because of my daddy. Was also I talked about who I knew and what was going on somewhat but it's also a little gossip in the community. But it also it was about the record business and who I got to meet and see, But Daddy kind of kept me away from it a little bit now.
Well, I know you snuck off to the parties, though. Come on, Jill. Jill, when I met you, I can't give away all the history. You're right. But when we met, Jill was at Walker. I don't even know if you knew this about Jill. Jill was she was a up and coming socialite who went to all of the plays. Went to all of the Just Us theater parties. I mean, we had some great talent, some great shows.
Yeah.
And literally and this is what's really important about tracking why black radio is important as part of the entertainment industry in our black community. It is a combination of more than just athletes who get all the pull and draw. We got the record industry, we got the movie industries, we got the preachers and the ministers, yes. But let me tell you, that record back in the 60s and the 70s, the record industry was booming. I mean,
yes, it was.
And your life really mirrored much of that history, and that's why when I saw some of the stories that are in the background story that I'm sure Walker, you had much to pull from. It's like I'm looking at some of the talking points that Jill gave me. I'm like, an interracial love affair from star Bette Davis. Come on now, you never hear about that one. Hey, see, that's like, that whet your appetite?
I never heard before.
I know. Yeah. Come on now, that's like woo. Really, Betty Davis?
Gotta read the book.
Got to read the book. So it's in there, folks. I'm telling you, there's some tell-all stuff that goes deep. Walker, the one that you found most entertaining and enjoyable to write about, because you sent me a little blurb from one of the couple of pages of the book, but tell us the one that's the most amusing for you that you discovered.
I think the story he told about Thurgood Marshall was my favorite one because I always pictured him as, the Supreme Court justice and very, Brown v. Board and all of that and all of the wonderful things he did. And he was just a towering icon, that had nothing but respect. But, I didn't stop and think about him as a regular guy. Right. And Jack told us he was very good friends with him and tells a story about a joke that Thurgood Marshall used to tell. And I cannot repeat it on the air, but it was hilarious. And you've got to read the book to find out the punchline. And and what's really nice about it is that Jack, and telling the joke, he tells the story of how Thurgood did not forget his friends, and he invited them to the ceremony when he walked down the aisle and with the robes, and he was the first black Supreme Court justice, and they were there. All his old buddies were there, and he leaned over and whispered something to them that was a part of that joke. And then they realized that he hadn't changed a bit, and he was still their homeboy, And it's just a great story, and it really humanizes Thurgood Marshall. It makes you realize what a cool guy he must have been.
Well, Walker,
I like that story the best.
Stories like that I think are so important because you're right. It humanizes the individual who we've come to acknowledge and recognize as a judicial icon. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that, right? But the humanization of them, the parts that it's like Martin Luther King. Very many people who did not get a chance to know him personally, who did realize that he too, like Stevie, liked to play pranks, and he was like to have a good time. Laughed a lot. Okay, I mean all that seriousness that we have with the civil rights movement and the sit-ins and the protests in Selma, but some of the best moments were, I'm sure, took place right there in your living room, Jill. When after the speeches,
I think that's where a lot of them had to get relief from this pressure of being who they are.
Yes, exactly.
And Jack talked about that. He says there's a part in the book where he says it's hard to imagine that there was a lot of fun to be had in the days before the civil rights movement when there was no equality. But we did have some great times, and he had fun. He made sure that his life. Believe me, this book there's a lot of serious parts in it, but there is a lot of laughs. There are a lot of laughs in this book. It is a very fun book to read.
Great. And now, where can the book be gotten? Let's drive some sales now. Where can we buy this book?
All right.
You like that?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's available on my site on walkersmithbooks.com. It's pretty much everywhere now. The distributors have it pretty much on all the sites, and it's in store and Barnes. It's getting into the stores, the brick and mortar stores of Barnes and Noble. Sometime this month. So it's around. It's everywhere. You can find it. Just Excellent. Go look for Mellow Yellow. It's spelled the way he spelled his paper, which was MELLOYELLO without the W's.
Without the W.
And we decided to call the book that because that was his most influential paper, and that's what he called it. So I thought, well, that's the perfect title for the book.
Excellent. And
he was an influential guy.
That's right. And this is Black History Month, and so this is the time when literally, folks, expand your horizons. Get to know the people that you may never get to study in your history books, but they made the history. These were the history makers, the game changers, as they call them, and they were on every day. I got to take a break here in a little bit, but when we come back, I'm going to ask my producer to kind of join us because he's a filmmaker himself. And has a documentary. It's called Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio. And Jack, the rapper, is featured in this documentary. So you see, it's like keeping Black history alive and Black radio. They walk hand in hand. That's one thing for sure. All right, so listen, we got to take this break right here. And when we come back, we're going to bring in Tylon Xavier Washington, the producer of Disappearing Voices, the decline of black radio, and I understand I got a couple more callers on the line. So don't go away, folks. We're going to bring you in and join the conversation. We'll be right back after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have an event, product, service, talent, or something important to say, now is your chance. You can have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out or a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation and following, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We can help you grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 or visit www.goproradio.com, and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own professional radio show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We are an amazing people, rooted in Africa, the cradle of human civilization. Descendant of the awesome men and women who made a way out of no way. People steeped in the values of truth, justice, respect, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, and racism, fueled by the lie of black inferiority, have taken their toll. The result? Too much pain, too much hurt, too much loss. We owe our ancestors, ourselves, and our children so much more than this. Join the movement for emotional emancipation, healing, and wellness for black people. Go to communityhealingnet.org and take the pledge to defy the lie and embrace the truth. That's communityhealingnet.org. Our children and our ancestors are waiting.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
I've got my good friend Jill Gibson Bell on the line, also author of Mellow Yellow, Walker Smith. Welcome back, ladies. We're talking about Jack the Rapper. My goodness, what a life. What a story. There's a piece here that I want you to tell me this story. It's the bailing out of Sammy Davis Jr.
That was a good one.
Now, right, now you have to picture this, folks. Sammy Davis Jr. was what, about 5'4", 5'8"?
5 even.
5 even.
5 even.
With his heels on. Okay. Now, he was also known to be a real pistol. Okay. So, and he didn't spare, when he got with the Rat Pack, you know he was in high cotton. But there was a night you had to bail him out. He'd been arrested for being black after sundown. You want to tell us about that?
That's it. That was when he was at the Lord Calvert, which was one of those hotels where all of the black acts had to stay because they couldn't stay in the white hotels.
Right.
So this was in Miami. And there was a law around there that, you know, these entertainers they were not allowed to the street after dark unless they had some kind of a card. It was some kind of cabaret card or something. And Sammy didn't have his card, and so they got a call. They were all sitting there drinking and playing cards and whatever, all the things they used to do after the shows broke up at the Lord Calvert. And they got the call, Nat King Cole actually. And I love the way he would tell these stories and say, well, Nat answered the phone. I said, who? He said, Nat King Cole. I said, okay, it's just Nat, you know. These were just the superstars he was hanging out with as his buddies, you know. And Nat answered the phone, and it was the police, and they had him. He said, well, it looks like they got Sammy, and well, I guess we better go pick him up. And then a couple of them said, well, I can't go. I don't think I have my card either. So they were kind of stuck until dawn. And at dawn, they all drove out to pick up Sammy and bail him out. So Jack, being as light-skinned as he was another reason we called it Mellow Yellow, because he often referred to himself as the yellow, N-word.
Yes.
And so anyway, when it suited his purposes, like it did this time, he decided they sent him in and told him, you go up there and you get him. And he said, why did it have to be me? And they said, because you look like him, and maybe you can have better luck getting him out of there. So he went in and pretended to be Sammy's white boss, and stood there and sort of read him the riot act when they brought him out, and reprimanded him in front of the police to emphasize the point that Sammy was in a lot of trouble with his boss. And so this is just a very funny story, because Sammy knew they had to play this game, but he wasn't enjoying it too much.
That's right.
Right. And so, but he got him out, and then at the end he ends it with saying that Sammy didn't speak to him for 2 weeks. But it got him out.
It got him out.
And he never tried to pass normally, but that time he did, because it was for a reason.
Now, I was going to ask you about the title, Mellow Yellow, because, I mean, you got to, in our community, you got to know how to say it. It's just not yellow.
Yes. Yes, yalla.
Yalla. That's right. And we all knew what it meant.
That's right.
Okay? It was like, we know what you're talking about, all right? Anyway, that's a great story. Jill, your favorite story, humorous story that happened that you reflect on with your dad and your family, your brother, and something with the stars. Something that really tickled.
Okay, well, it was when we were living. We got to live at the Lord Calvert.
Oh,
believe it or
you
not.
lived there. I didn't know that you were
You
there.
didn't know
too.
that?
Oh, no, I didn't.
We're going to get deep,
I told
folks.
you, I've lived everywhere.
That sounded like a fun place to be.
It was. It was. Believe me. We got to live in it. And at that time, if I can remember right, my daddy had a raggedy-looking Continental. It was not raggedy. I shouldn't say that, but it opened. You know how the Continental used to open with the doors into the inside?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But anyway, we lived at the Lower Calvert Hotel. That's where I fell in love. My first love was David Campanella, which was Roy Campanella's son.
Okay.
He was there. See, like she said, all entertainers.
Yeah, Dorothy Dandridge, all of them there.
Everybody had to live at the Lower Calvert. And so we got to live there, too. We lived like in the corner, back in like a little suite. Why we got to live there, I don't recall. I never found out. But the story that I guess my brother and I realized that there were a lot of famous people there. Like I say, Nat King Cole, you name it, Roy Campanella, Ruth Brown, Joe Louis, anybody that you can think of that was at that hotel. Well, what my brother and I would do, because they were famous, we would go peep in their windows, So we got caught.
Oh, I know you did.
Tell all.
And guess what? My daddy didn't catch me. It was my mama.
Yeah.
It was Mama Sadie who caught me and my brother. We just said, we're going to start looking. My brother now, don't ask me why. They had jollices. They still have them in Florida, if you know what I'm talking about. They're little, what you call them, glass windows that you turn. They call them glass jollices.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they used to have them open because I guess we had air conditioning. I can't even remember that, believe it or not. But we used to peep in the windows to see what they were doing. So we got in trouble.
Boy.
So
I hear you.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, so that's what some of the things that I have been able to, and I can't even tell you what I saw, and don't want to tell you.
Is that in the book, Jill? Is that in the book? Is that in the?
I didn't know. That's not it. He didn't mention that.
Walker
I didn't know
didn't know about this one.
No,
That's the next book coming out.
You have to realize, my daddy was probably at work.
Uh-huh.
Now, she probably told him what we did. And, we probably, and she, bless her little heart, but, Daddy probably laughed. But my mother, we got
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I said, I bet it didn't bother him a bit.
Right?
No.
He got a kick out of it, yeah.
Now.
But he knew it. But see what it was, my mother, they blamed me because I'm the oldest,
right.
4 years older than my brother.
Right.
So they figured, okay, she did it. I took him with me. I had to have somebody help me. I mean,
That's right.
Jill. All right. But then I understand there's another one. You have so many. But there's one about the radio interviews by window with Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Tell us about
that.
that.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was good. Do you want to tell that one, Jill?
No. I just remember because I know all these stories, and I know they're true because they never change.
Yeah,
except
exactly.
there was another one by Sammy Davis. Not that we don't have time for that one, but there was another one. Right. But you go ahead and tell it. Go ahead.
The Dr. King one. Yeah, it was because the WERD offices were on Auburn Avenue they were right above the Southern Christian Leadership Conference offices that were right downstairs. So while Dr. King when he was in town, he was so busy. They would, as you said, they would keep the community up to date about what was going on with the civil rights movement. So what he started to do was, just for convenience, he would say, "And now we're going to let Dr. King talk to you for a minute, update you on what's going on. He just got back from Birmingham or whatever else was going on." And he'd say, so he would actually dangle the microphone out the window and lower it all the way down to the next window, and Dr. King would reach in the window for it and talk to the people because he just didn't have time to be running up and down the stairs. And he would do it like that out the window. And that was the loose way they used to do radio back then. And it was wonderful. I like that story a lot because I could just picture that. Now the movie. This would make such a good movie. Everybody keeps saying it would make a good movie, and I happened to find, Jill, just last night actually, one of the cassettes. I was looking through them to try to get some stuff together for some of these things that we're doing in New York, and I was listening to some of his stories, and he was in the middle of this one about where we were talking about. He was talking about this. Now we're going to have to, one of these days we're going to make a movie out of this. This is your dad talking. He was saying, and who would really be the only one we could get to play me? And I said, who's that? And I'm listening to this. I'm trying to remember. I didn't remember it until I listened to it again last night. And he said, well, you have Mario Van Peebles play me when I'm young, and then you have Melvin Van Peebles play me.
There you go.
And I was laughing. I said, man, I miss him. Just listening to those tapes again had me laughing. I said, boy, I miss those calls. They were so fun.
Oh, my gosh.
How about that? I think that's a good choice.
Yes.
Mario and Melvin.
Well, I got somebody else in mind now. See, Daddy realized, Daddy's been gone, 15 years now. Yeah. So I got somebody else in mind now. So.
Oh, really? Now, who is it? Who is it?
I can't tell you. I'll tell you off thing.
Well, don't. Ladies, I'm a very good director, by the way, and a good actor. So if you have a role in there for
right.
See,
we'll have to remember that.
You have to remember that. I produce and I direct. Jill knows my story.
All right.
Anyway,
definitely. I'll have to to send you the book. I don't know if you have it. You don't have it yet, do you?
No, I don't have a copy.
Byron,
of the book.
Do you have it?
Not yet. No, I have to get
I
that.
think I sent one. Yeah,
you did send
I did
it.
Send it to you. That's right.
Now, when are you coming to New York?
Tomorrow or something.
Right. I know you're coming.
Invite him to the. I guess we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about
in New York.
your book signing. That's right. That's why
going to be at the Sugar Bar at Ashford and Simpson's Sugar Bar, and it is Tuesday, February 10th. It starts at 6 p.m. and everybody's going to be there. There's a lot of people going to be there, and so that's right. You're out in the Bronx, aren't you?
I live in Brooklyn.
Where you?
But I know where the Sugar Bar is.
You can come to Midtown.
Oh, I do often.
Yeah, come to.
Believe me, I escape Brooklyn. But yes, it's going to be at the Sugar Bar next Tuesday, the 10th. At what time? What time?
6 p.m. It starts at 6 p.m. 6 to 9.
6 to 9 p.m. So you can come on out, get buy a copy of your book. Walker will be there to autograph it. Jill, are you coming to New York on this trip?
No. I can't make that trip. Sorry.
Okay.
Brock is
going. We'll do another one
in
Atlanta.
But I have
another one in Atlanta.
We have relatives that still live there. My cousins, Gibson, they will be there. My daddy, there's a story, of course. My grandfather lived in the Bronx on, that's awful. I can't remember what the street he lived on. Oh, golly, this is terrible. 125th Street.
Okay.
But anyway, so, I have relatives, so they'll be there.
Great. And that's on the 10th. I have to take a break here, and when we come back, I'm going to invite my producer, Tylan, who knows both of the gentlemen that you want to perform in your movie documentary.
How about that?
So we'll have to see if you can get the Van Peebles to connect with that's right.
But Jill's still the mystery man in mind, so we can't get that out of her. I don't know.
Right.
We'll have to find out who she's talking about.
We'll have to find out. That's right. So don't go away, folks. We'll be right back on the BCS Experience right after these very important words.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have an event, product, service, talent, or something important to say, now is your chance. You can have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out or a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation and following, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We can help you grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 or visit www.goproradio.com and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own professional radio show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We are an amazing people, rooted in Africa, the cradle of human civilization. Descendant of the awesome men and women who made a way out of no way. People steeped in the values of truth, justice, respect, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, and racism, fueled by the lie of black inferiority, have taken their toll. The result? Too much pain, too much hurt, too much loss. We owe our ancestors, ourselves, and our children so much more than this. Join the movement for emotional emancipation, healing, and wellness for Black people. Go to communityhealingnet.org and take the pledge to defy the lie and embrace the truth. That's communityhealingnet.org. Our children and our ancestors are waiting.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I got my good friend
Are you ready for
Jill
this?
Gibson Bell, daughter of Jack Gibson, also known as Jack the Rapper, who happened to have been America's pioneer DJ, music industry giant, and Walker Smith, author of Mellow Yellow, the story of Jack the Rapper's life, a tell-all book containing the inside stories you have never heard before. We've been having a good time with the ladies. They've been giving me a little bits and pieces of who they want to have perform them, the father and the brother, and I'm gonna get a roll out of this somewhere, ladies. I think that would be my time to get star. And now I have joining me in the studio is my producer, Mr. Tylon Usavier Washington, who's got a very important documentary out. It's called Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio, which examines the history of broadcasting in general and black radio in particular. Welcome, Tylon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
Now,
much for having me.
I'm bringing...
This is an honor. I feel close to royalty here, just even through the internet airwaves, to have the daughter of someone who made my career possible to a very huge extent. And you would not have
a film like this had it not been for Jack the Rapper, let alone black radio. Because he really was one of the pioneers who really made and defined what the difference was between black radio and white radio. And all the other kind of stuff that's out there. He was distinctive and unique and powerful. And he
maintained relevancy, I think, all the way, to the end, by embracing
all kinds of music and new forms of music developed out of the black community.
Here's a question in my last segment, and something to touch on, because we are always concerned about how we get our word out, the word to the masses.
Right.
Black radio. Tylon, you represent a new breed. Jill, you represent the icon of the past. And Walker, you're telling the story. Where are we headed with black radio these days? Anybody, jump in.
Well, I think fewer in the reason why we have fewer and fewer authentic, I would say authentic black voices, is because black radio was kept poor by design. It was not that you did not have charismatic personalities like Jack the Rapper, or you did not have people like Frankie Crocker and so many others who really brought in the numbers and listenership. But Arbitron, which was the rating system for sort of like the Nielsen for radio, would often marginalize, discount, and disrespect the black community, keeping black radio poor. So no matter how much they would change their format
and do do all kinds of things. It was very difficult for them to keep their doors open. So, the internet looks a little bit more viable in terms of, forward thinking and looking at new places for us to connect. And like your show, Byron, which is really a town hall meeting and just so much very, very important information, connecting the dots, which is so important. We think that we are where we are just
happen to be here.
Happen to be here.
The house fell on us.
They have no idea of the tremendous sacrifices that people like Jack the Rapper, even like yourself, had to endure so that I could exist even here at GoPro Radio. So I really want to thank you. I want to thank the listeners as well as Jill and all the other folks who are, contributing to the message of independence and black authenticity back in the marketplace.
Now, Jill, what's really interesting and quite demanding in terms of us really connecting the dots is this. BW Moving Images, which produces GoPro Radio Network, its primary focus is documentary and independent film work. That's how he was able to connect with the Bad Peoples, Mario and Melvin, because they have both worked out of the studio. They have both been on this show, or on the GoPro Radio Network. So there is a connection. We have to connect the dots. It's up to us. And Walker, that's why it's important what you're doing.
About that, because Melvin and Peebles really had a lot in common with Jack, because Jack, he tells it in the book, we're talking about this in the book, where he talks about he was really pretty down and out when he came up with the idea of the big convention that turned into this huge, massive convention. And from almost nothing, he managed to pull this all together, and he and Sadie, and they just did it, and it's just amazing to me that how huge it got to be when it came to people who sit back and make excuses. Well, I can't do anything because the man's keeping me down. Well, no, because look what he did, and then look what Melvin Van Peebles did. I mean, the odds against that first film he did were amazing, and he did it. He just, by hook or crook or spit or whatever, look, he did it. He did it, and they have that in common, and that's they're very, that's a great story. That's like what they call the great American story, except that people don't acknowledge it as much as when it's black people. But they both did that, and they did it against great odds. So I think it's very interesting that he selected him as the person to play him.
Well, as much as black radio is growing, now it seems like it's in a new birth phase for the moment. You may recall, Tylon, a couple years ago when we were having the election.
Right.
Remember
yes.
LSB, or rather KISS, rather.
KISS went off the air right in the middle of the election for President of the United States. We lost a black radio station. You know what they turned the station into? ESPN Sports. Right here in New York City.
We need another one of those.
Right, exactly. So, it's critical to understand the importance of having some way to get the word out. And black radio, because of black radio, Ferguson is alive. Because of black radio, Cleveland, Ohio is its story of the young kid who got killed by the police. Because of black radio, Tylon Martin's story is able to be kept alive. Because of black radio, we are still in the midst of enjoying what I think is the movement is reigniting itself. And because of ERD and the other radio stations, and Jack the Rapper, these are the people who kept moving the ball forward for us. They kept the communication alive. And that's why it's important that we have your story, your book, Jill, Walker, incredible book to be out on the streets right now. It is Black History Month. You're going to be here in New York next week, folks. February the 10th at 6 p.m. at the Sugar Bar. That's right. Ashford and Simpson. Ashford is gone, but Simpson is still
there. And sure? That's right. And Ebony Joanne and a bunch of other my friends who will probably be there that night. Come and buy your book, Mellow Yellow.
Yes.
Support.
Yes.
So
support. Right. That's right. This is Black History Month. Shows the strength of your black dollar. We represent $1.7 trillion annually in the United States. Bring it home. Keep us alive. Ladies.
That's right.
Jill, I'm gonna I'm gonna let Walker take the lead and tell us about the one more time where the book signing is, and then Jill, I'll let you have the last couple of words to say hello, goodbye, and I love you. How about that, Walker?
Okay.
Where's the reading next week?
Okay, the book sign is not just a book signing. There's going to be a lot of people there talking about Jack, which will be the best thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people who knew him, and it'll be a big love fest for Jack. So it's going to be a lot of fun because I'm sure there'll be a lot of stories being told that night. A lot of people there knew him and love him, and so it's. I think the book signing will be a sideline. I really do. I think it's going to be a big Jack the Rapper night. It's going to be like one of his conventions. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
So Sugar Bar.
Sugar Bar.
As you said, Tuesday, February 10th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
All right. In here in New York City at the Sugar Bar. Jill. What would you love to say,
thank you
Jill?
enough.
You know I love you.
For having me on. I have not done this in a long time, so it's my first one.
Yes.
I hope not my last.
It shall
my
not
daddy
be. That's right.
book is concerned. I promised him 50 years ago.
That's right.
That I was going to do this on his deathbed, unfortunately, and I guess when Walker and I have been talking to each other for the last umpteen years, and so be it now. We got it done.
Finally got it done.
Yes,
right.
and when I got that book in the mail, I could cry because you know.
Yeah.
But
at least he got to read the final draft before he passed. He did get to read it. He
Excellent.
Sure did.
Excellent.
Yes,
well, I got to go,
so.
folks. This has been the BCS experience. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
There'll be other times I want you to come back on. Buy the book. It's Black History Month, folks.
Please do.
It's January, February, March. That's our time. Get your copy of Disappearing Voices right now. We got about 30 more seconds left. The BCS experience will be back on next week from 5 to 6 p.m. Coming up next, that's right, you know my good friend Sonny Sutherland with We the People, followed by the Earl Morgan Hour, followed by The Good Life, followed by the Sexy Party Show. And then don't forget on Friday, you can still tune in to Roll Up at 10 p.m. on the GoPro Radio Network. All right? Thank you so much. We love you. Peace out.
Thank you for